Everyone, welcome. So glad you are joining me today here in the beautiful capital city of British Columbia, Canada. We're in Victoria and we're going to be touring the Inner Harbour today. To everybody who's joining the chat in the live stream when we are live streaming it, a massive hello. I see you all there, all the comments coming in, and keep that chatter going. And by the way, if you're watching the replay on this, you won't see the chat on the side, but definitely join in with your comments down below. If we haven't met before, my name is Dan King. It's always an absolute thrill to be taking you on these tours around the island that I get to live on off the west coast of Canada, Vancouver Island. And so being in Victoria today and walking around, specifically today the Inner Harbour, which is a tour I haven't done before, is going to be an absolute privilege. I'm really looking forward to it, taking you guys along for the next 30, 40, 45 minutes, showing off things. I think it's absolutely wonderful. So if this is why you're watching, you are here in the right place. And as always, if you like what you see, you can always leave a tip. Down below in the description of this video is a link to my Buy Me a Coffee, and not only do you get to give your support for that, you also get a chance to get onto my email list, which will let you know when tours like this that actually weren't previously scheduled. I just happened to be down in Victoria, so I thought, let's bring you along. It's an opportunity for you to get the inside track on those kind of things. And again, it's in the description down below. But enough about me. You guys are here for the Inner Harbour and a walkabout through Victoria's Inner Harbour, and I cannot wait to do that for you. Let me just turn the camera around and show you what I'm looking at today, which is here at we're going to start at the Parliament Buildings, and for some reason it's not switching around. So give me just a moment. There we go. I think it was my first time doing this. Beautiful, beautiful blue sky, late summer morning here in the capital city of Victoria. And I say beautiful blue sky weather today because although it's a little bit windy, it is clear sky. Yesterday afternoon, we actually had a bit of a rain shower, and it's been kind of miserable weather, to be honest, the last week or so on Vancouver Island, which is generally an absolutely gorgeous place to be here in Canada. This is actually I believe overall the sunniest city in Canada when you look at a year-round average. And so we're usually blue sky like we are today. I don't know if you can hear the bells going off behind me at the bell tower at the Royal BC Museum. We'll take a look at that in just a moment, but I wanted to start just walking across the grass here, taking a look at this beautiful totem. It's a totem that was erected back in 1990, and it was done simultaneously with the end of the Commonwealth Games. Of course, Canada being a part of the British Commonwealth, we're participants in the Commonwealth Games. The end of 1990 in New Zealand, they unveiled this here because New Zealand was handing it off to us. We hosted it here in Victoria in 1994, and so this was erected then. Beautiful tribute and connection to not only First Nations people, but also to sport and to activity here in British Columbia. Now, I also wanted to show you that first because I wanted to back up, spin around, and show you what we're looking at here. Of course, one of the iconic spots here in Victoria, the Parliament Buildings. Arguably the most beautiful Parliament buildings in Canada. Perhaps someone said to me a little while ago that Manitoba might have something that they would put up a fight for, but I believe this is absolutely gorgeous. The sun is behind us. The sun is behind the building, so it's a little bit shaded, but I hope that you can appreciate it just looking at it across the way. Absolutely beautiful. And yes, somebody in the comments mentioned that there are castles in Victoria, and that is true. There are 2 castles in Victoria here. This was constructed in 1893 by then, or designed and built under the direction of a 25-year-old very creative architect named Francis Rattenbury. He was the same one that built the Empress Hotel, which is just to my left here, which we'll look at in just a little while. He actually lied about his credentials to be able to build it, his architectural history and his credentials, but he was awarded the contract. He did build it, and it is a beautiful, beautiful building, isn't it? It was built in honor and celebrating Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee, which of course the city is named after. It was completed in 1915. And this very historic, very architectural, significant masterpiece, we'll call it, runs visitor tours every day during these summer months. They last for about 45 minutes. They're free. And again, probably one of the most beautiful Parliament buildings here in Canada. So if you like it, you can give some thumbs up in the chat there. Absolutely gorgeous. I have not been here for a long time, to be honest, when there hasn't been some kind of, and of course it's the right of people to do it, under free speech, there's some kind of event happening here, people lobbying for one thing or another, and so it's nice that there's no demonstrations today. Of course, the beautiful fountain there, the building in the background. I hear languages from all over the world. Absolutely beautiful. We'll get some more shots of this from a distance, but really just wanted to linger here in Victoria for a few moments, because if you come in the winter months or even the spring months, you're not going to get these kind of views. What are the summer hours for the tours? Somebody's asking me. They run daily. I'm not sure what time they open. I believe it's 10 a.m., but there's definitely a desk in the distance here. I don't know if you can see it. It's just, if you can, right behind my finger over there, there's a little desk, and they're there and you can ask questions always. Well, let's just spin around for a moment and look behind us. The statue here. Speaking of Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria's statue. It's erected in 1919, in the fall of that year. And again, so many places that people are just taking images and pictures here, and just enjoying the scenery today. I can hear, although I haven't seen one yet, the clippity-clap of the carriage tours behind us. So if I happen to see one of those going by, I will definitely spin around and show you those. And I see your note there, Karen. You can maybe drop me a direct message. My email is in my About section of my YouTube page. If you're not subscribed to that, you guys should definitely jump in. Walking towards the corner here of Belleville and Government Street. Probably one of the most populated tourist points in the city. To the War Memorial here. Many of us know our friend Patrick from Banff, who often runs tours, and I would argue probably does it much better than I do in the city here. He always makes a joke about phoning the police and telling them that there's a man with a gun at the War Memorial here. Of course, alluding to the statue. Wink, wink. So I would have dropped that joke on my own because I think it's a great one, but of course he's got copyright on that one, I feel like, so. Okay. Wonderful. Now, I alluded to across the street the bell tower that was ringing earlier. I don't know if you heard it, as I did, in the background. This is the British Columbia Royal Museum, and we're going to take a little walk over there to look at the grounds. We're not going to walk into it today, but we are going to take a little peek, talk a little bit about it. It's probably one of the most foremost cultural institutions in the world, as far as, right up there with some of the other big museums globally. Founded in 1886. It has just a colorful collection of artifacts and documents and specimens. Of course, there's a global side to it, so there's a Stonehenge exhibition going on right now until the end of January. Here's this beautiful bell tower. Get a little shot of it all the way up, the sun right behind it, so it's got a bit of a glow to it here, doesn't it? This was a bell tower that was actually donated I recently learned it was a gift from the Dutch as a thank you for the local regiments that fought in the Second World War, and rings throughout the day. In 2007 was erected. Yeah, people can't go up those stairs. They're just for maintenance, I suspect. It's a beautiful picture, and this is one of the most gorgeous times of year, of course, with greenery and such. So I love lining up these beautifully cinematic and beautiful shots for you of these historic buildings here that's scattered in the downtown core Inner Harbour of Victoria. And hello all to those just joining us in the chat. Great to have you here. I mentioned it was founded in 1886. Human history and sharing that history with the world is what it's dedicated to. Children, I remember going as a child to visit here, and I've come down a couple times with international students actually, who are on the island doing schooling, so that they can go in and take a look at all that's there. It takes about $30 and about set aside 2 or 3 hours to journey through it. There's also an IMAX movie theater inside, and that focuses mostly on nature films, documentaries, and the sort. Although I do remember back in the day when the Lord of the Rings was out, they switched it up for just a little while and showed the Lord of the Rings movies there. Just a few years ago, the government actually announced that they were going to shut it down and completely renovate and redo it over about an 8-year, if I don't remember incorrectly, timeline. As we head across the road, Government Street here, across Bellevue. And that move to renovate and close it down for those years was met with a lot of kickback from the local population, and so they actually canceled those plans, and it is open and will continue to be open for the foreseeable future. Well, the statues today along our walk. This is Emily Carr. And of course, the great Canadian artist, with her little dog and her pet monkey on her shoulder. You might ask, why is Emily Carr? By the way, I learned just recently that the pet monkey's name was Woo. Woo is the pet monkey, cute little dress. Somebody in the chat says they want a pet monkey now. Absolutely. The Emily Carr house is just a few blocks down, on Government Street. Many hold her as the mother of art here in Western Canada. She was born in the area, a fairly well-to-do family, and studied in Paris and London, but returned here to the West Coast and spent really most all of her life here, up and down the West Coast, giving special attention to Indigenous artwork. It's part of the history of this era, in her era. Now let's continue walking forward, and this is in our background, the Empress Hotel, and we'll get a better shot of that in just a little bit. But if you're ever in Victoria, I want to encourage you just to find this corner of Bellevue and Government and just spend some time lingering here, walking into these gardens. Some beautiful flowered gardens here. I was actually over before the tour started at the legislature's rose garden, and it was well past the season for the roses. They were not looking as lovely as they do earlier in the spring, but here the variety is absolutely gorgeous. So I'll walk through this with you just a little bit today and show off some of the beauty of this place. Now, the Inner Harbour, where we're going to be spending our time today, perhaps, I think, maybe one of the most beautiful harbors in the world. And hopefully we're not going to get wet going through here. I think we're going to evade the water as the sprinklers are on. Oh, crazy. Oh, They just turned off as I said that. Look, they knew we were coming. The Inner Harbour, year-round, you're going to find recreational vessels and small cruise ships mooring there. And then just steps from it are all these historical streets and the distinctive architecture. Let's let you know, really, you know, I see pictures of Victoria and I just know that is Victoria. Very distinct. There's a few roses underneath the tree there, but very wet grass, so I'm not going to walk out on it, but I do see some over here, so we'll walk over there and take a little look at the roses. Some of you who enjoy that will appreciate it. You can see some of the apartment buildings in the background. Now, downtown Victoria, of course, built on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen, and I've pronounced that wrong, I'm sure, people, and the Coastal Salish people. There's some roses for us. The Inner Harbour in the 18th century was largely just a mud flat, if you can believe it. Yeah, somebody says in the chat they can hear the seagulls. Absolutely. It's a large mud flat here, with some of the best clam beds, apparently, of the West Coast. And the first non-Indigenous people to set foot on Vancouver Island was Captain James Cook. Probably a familiar name to many of you. Oh, and we're just leaving right in time as they start mowing the lawn. Back in 1778, and his survey of the land ultimately paved the way for the arrival in 1843 of James Douglas, who led the effort for construction of an outpost on Vancouver Island here for the Hudson Bay Company. Fort Victoria was its name, which now is where we are, Victoria. Fort Victoria was Victoria's original military bastion, and if you wonder what a bastion is, I don't know if you ever joined me for some of my tours down in Nanaimo, just the North Island, or more north than here. Obviously we're in the south tip of the island right now. You can see in the far distance a double-decker bus, sightseeing bus there. Part of the nod to the British history of this place. So the Bastion military base was located around what we call Bastion Square today. And we'll actually end our tour up by Bastion Square. By 1846, the outpost was a key spot in the fur trade. And a European settlement. Here's the side of the building of beautiful Empress Hotel. We'll get a shot of the front of it very soon. But yeah, if you're here, it's definitely worth wandering around these grounds. We sometimes just get stuck on the street sides and need to take a step over to the peace and tranquility for just a moment of this place. Wonderful. Just as we're rounding the corner. If you joined a little bit late, wonderful to have you here again. My name is Dan King. I live here on Vancouver Island. If we haven't met yet, it's a pleasure to be taking you on this tour of the Inner Harbour area of Victoria and answering your questions. And I see Barbara's right now about taking a ferry to Vancouver Island. Yeah, there's 3 ways to get here to Vancouver Island. The first is by ferry. Now, there's a couple of options right now. You can take a passenger ferry from the center of Vancouver to downtown Nanaimo right now. It's a foot passenger ferry. It's called the Hello Ferry. It started earlier this year and is doing quite well, I'm told, which is fantastic news because I absolutely love it. You can take the British Columbia ferries, the BC ferries, from Tsawwassen Bay here across to Schwartz Bay, which is probably about a 30-minute drive to kind of the northeast here. And you can also take helicopter, helijet, or you can fly over on a smaller seaplane, which just lands just out here in the distance, and we'll maybe see one if we get lucky today landing. And of course there's the traditional flights you can take over as well. So quite a few ways to get over, but if you've got a car, you're definitely looking at a BC ferry. About an hour and a half ferry ride. So glad you asked that question. Keep those questions coming. Well, let me spin around again as we walk by the entrance to one of the restaurants here, the Veranda Restaurant. Gorgeous entry here at the Empress Hotel. The Empress Hotel was constructed, and we'll walk down across the street and then I'll spin you around so you can see it as we have the Inner Harbour in front of us here on Government Street. But it was constructed between 1904 and 1908, and again, that same young man who constructed the Parliament Buildings is the one who constructed these as well. And the Empress Hotel took about 4 years to build, and Rattenbury was hired to make this dream of a grand hotel in the harbour a reality. And again, named after Queen Victoria, who the Parliament Buildings were also dedicated to, who actually during the last decade of the reign, it's called, was also, her reign was also the Empress of India. And that's where the Empress title actually comes from when we look at this hotel here. The city of Victoria literally grew up around this stunning Empress Hotel, and it's been the center of social and business for the city since it opened. And look at, as we turn around and catch the full front beauty of this hotel. If you're taking some screen grabs, this is definitely one to get with the beautiful blue sky behind it, a few clouds puffed up there, and what a wonderful view of an iconic spot here in the Inner Harbour. So we'll back up just a little bit more to get you a better shot here in Victoria. There's been 3 major renovations of the hotel over the years. The most recent was a restoration that was approximately $64 million restoration, and it was a facelift that was completed in June of 2017. Touched every single part of the hotel, and it was designated as a National Historic Site back in 1981, the Empress Hotel. What's the number one thing to do here when people visit? Well, of course, it is to have afternoon tea. Since 1908, the hotel has served celebrities, has served guests from around the world. They are said to pour, interesting fun fact, about 500,000 cups of tea each year, which is actually more than most hotels and many tea rooms in England, in London, England. And if we look back towards where we came from, we can see the beautiful Parliament Buildings in the distance. Can you see the Welcome to Victoria sign along the edge of the water there, just in the flowers? The old port building over here. When I was young, I remember coming there, and it was actually for a time was a wax museum. This building right between the trees here. I remember it being a wax museum, old shipyard terminal. The lookout, of course, in the distance, you can see that red, white, and blue boat, Union Jack on the side of it, and that's the Victoria Clipper. Goes down to the States, taking pedestrian traffic down to the US. Got some whale watching boats in the foreground there, the yellow and black one. And again, so many gorgeous, gorgeous flowers here. Let's walk actually down to Seaside. We've got people selling their wares, a lot of artists, artisans that sell down here, often performers down here. I love the lights. Bubble lights, they just add to the facade down here. So beautiful. Take a look at some of the boats that are moored here. Now we're talking about the history of the Inner Harbour area. And we talked about the Bastion. The next big historical event occurred here in 1858. And that was when the Fraser Canyon Gold Rush over on the mainland took place. And again in 1861-62, the Caribou Gold Rush occurred. And so both of these gold rushes really swelled the traffic through the harbour here.
That's true. No shelf.
There was a massive influx of people who came to Fort Victoria because they had to buy permits here as the capital. This was the capital, buy permits and supplies before setting out looking for gold on the mainland. And so, a fledgling town of 500 that really couldn't get its footing suddenly swelled during that period to about 20,000 people. And so in 1862, which was just after that second gold rush occurred and the influx began, Victoria was incorporated into the city that it is now. Prince of Wales, yeah, did you see that? Somebody comments, the Prince of Wales, which is one of the large whale watching companies here on the coast. They've got an office to our right. 3 to 4 hour tour from here is about $190, so with taxes, so it's fairly pricey. If you go up to Nanaimo, Campbell River, you're looking at not significantly less, but probably in the $120, $140 range, so a little bit less. They've got you in a little bit of a tourist angle here. This is one of the local artists. Displays their paintings here. It's beautiful colors. The West Coast feel and vibe. I don't know if you can see those well. Do you see any that you would like to get if you came by? See some orcas. In the center of the screen now is a beautiful humpback whale and its offspring. The orcas jumping, bear in the background there. Some beautiful art pieces here. That's one of the things I like about just wandering around here, seeing the offerings. There are also a number of water taxis in the area, and here you can see Harbour Ferry water taxi down there. And in the distance, just leaving in the center of the screen, you're going to see a yellow one, a little yellow checkered water taxi coming by. Water taxi is a great way to zip around the Inner Harbour, point to point. And of course, I've taken you in the past to Fisherman's Wharf, and that's another stop on their trek. If you've asked any questions and I've missed them in the chat only stays up for me for a couple of seconds before it disappears, so please ask them again and we'll see if we can't answer them. So we move from paintings to glasswork. Another one of the artisans along here. So if you're ever here, this is a great place to come and spend some time, bring a little money, and get a little bit of a souvenir memory and beautiful work of art from along the way here. Catch one of the whale watching boats actually is just coming back in. Let's see it. Let me just zoom in for a moment on it as it docks. And you can see the red outfits that they're wearing. Those are life suits. Those will keep you warm out in the cool water with the wind blowing on you and the water splashing up. They allow you to float if you happen to go over. And they also look just really sporty in pictures. So that's great. We're going to walk up Government Street in a little moment here. That's a great question about the temperature today. I don't have access to my temperature on my phone right now, but I'm going to guess, Karen, that temperature today, it's around 11:30 in the morning, and it is probably about 20, 21 degrees Celsius. And just my guesstimate, somewhat informed. I did look this morning, and I think the high today is 23 or 24, so probably about right. Some of the big buildings in the distance there. The one on the right was, I believe, erected in 1903. The one on the left is very, very recent, only a few years old. So they've done a really good job of kind of blending some of the newer architecture to reflect the historic nature of the area, which I always appreciate. You know, when things stand out a little bit like a sore thumb, it's always a little bit awkward, but when they are blending in and there's that nod to the history of an area, I think they've done themselves well. We're going to see a orca whale here that's beautifully beautifully ornamented with mosaic tiles on it. And this was part of a show that was installed here, an art exhibit that was installed in 2017. It was only meant, as I understand it, to be here for the summer months, but people liked it so much and there was such a warm embrace of it that they've left these up now, and they're still here 8 years later. I like the way that the light glistens on this particular one. We got a nice shot there with the Empress Hotel in the background, don't we? Wow, absolutely beautiful. If you're somebody who takes screenshots on these tours, there's a great one for you. All things involved there. Absolutely beautiful. Let's walk up here for a moment, because one of the things we always like to bring our high school students from various countries that stay with us often. We don't have one this year, but we're taking a year off from hosting our students this year. Many of you will be aware of some of the international students that have been with us in the past. Our friend Benjamin often jumps into these live streams to say hello from Santiago, Chile. But they always like to get a photo here on the Canada sign with the Parliament buildings in the background. Unfortunately, it always has the sun behind it, so there's always shadow. As somebody who loves photography, I always get a little bit miffed that they don't put these things in a position where you get a better shot. Somebody's asking in the comments if we all want to go whale watching. Wouldn't that be amazing if they had good coverage? I would so go whale watching with you guys someday. It'd be a long tour. We would probably see a whale. There's right now, of course, there's the resident humpbacks, or sorry, the resident orcas, or killer whales, if you call them that, and also the transients that are just kind of moving around, and there's then as well the humpbacks right now, which are quite prevalent right now in the Georgia Strait, which is the body of water between Victoria here and the Strait of Georgia, the mainland, the continental mainland of North America, over by Vancouver. I've been out twice this summer and seen some beautiful humpback whales out of Campbell River, which is absolutely gorgeous. I really recommend it. It's expensive when you think about it, you know, $190, $150. But if you do have the chance to come here to Victoria or to Vancouver Island, do take the opportunity to go whale watching if it's in the summer, spring, fall season, not so much in the winter, because you will not regret it. The chance to see a whale, the majestic, these, oh, unbelievable. I believe when we were up in Campbell River, we saw about a dozen of them over a 3-hour period, and just breaches, and it was absolutely phenomenal. It was absolutely beautiful. So it's something that is definitely worth doing if you have the chance to do it. Let me spin around again. Thanks again for those of you who have joined me for this tour. We're going to continue our way down Government Street, some of the really interesting shops that are down that way. I'll show you one of my wife's 2 favorite shops down here when we get a moment. But as we walk up, I want to remind you that if you like what you see and you have the means and do want to leave a tip, in the description down below is a link to my Buy Me a Coffee, and you can leave tips in $5 increments there as you like. And the one bonus of that is that you can also get on my email list, which lets you know about tours like this. So you're not caught off guard and you see them real time and have fun in the chat, because the chat is just absolutely the best. Here's another one of these whales that was part of the initial exhibit back in 2017. This one hand painted as opposed to the mosaic one we saw earlier. There's such a variety of these. So nice. Somebody's asked if Vancouver is a great place to take a whale watching tour out of. Absolutely it is. Same Strait of Georgia, same body of water. In fact, that's a great timing for that question, because we're just coming up to a really nice map of the area here. And of course, we're in Victoria, which is right here on the point. So we are, I'll just zoom in. We are where everybody has touched over the years. And so there's a little bit of a hole right there. This is where we are. This is where the ferry comes in over in this area here. And it comes, of course, over from Tsawwassen. I'm sorry, did I point down here? Up here, Swartz Bay. And it goes through the Southern Gulf Islands here, and then it goes up to Tsawwassen, which is right here. And in that whole area down here, this whole Strait of Georgia is where you're going to see those whales. So the answer to your question, is Vancouver a good place to be going whale watching out of? Absolutely. You're going to find some great great opportunity to see some whales for sure. All right, well, let's take one last look. The Empress behind us and the flowers, and then we'll head up towards actually the Bastion Square. I mentioned the Bastion Square was the original fort in Victoria, so we're going to go up there and take a look at that. But wow, what a view today. The flowers of the spring, the Banff Hotel, where am I? Come on. Sister to the Banff Hotel, this is the Empress Hotel, and then the Parliament on the right in the background. And you can see, of course, just behind the trees there is the bell tower that we saw earlier. Flowers are so beautiful. Well, let's walk across. Again, this heavy trafficked area, and buildings erected in 1903, and then more recently we've got the Lululemon here, and of course his home of Lululemon is over in Vancouver, so it seems appropriate that just across the water would be another store and representation of it. I think we left off in our history in 1862 here, just when Victoria incorporated, and obviously a massive amount of growth in the years since then. If we fast forward today, a lot has happened between now and then, but suffice to say, especially during these summer months, the harbour area and this area we're about to walk into is the focus of festivals and shows and music, and serves as a base, as I mentioned, for the whale watching and ecotourism and float planes and international ferry terminals and water taxi services and the like. Victoria is home to about 400,000 people, maybe a little more, which is roughly half the population of Vancouver Island. So Vancouver Island, quite a large island here. Lululemon is a clothing store. Somebody's just asked. Quite a popular sports and clothing store. So that's what that is. If you're into fitness, you will probably know Lululemon. Lots of little, and by the way, I've walked now into quite a bit of wind, so hopefully you're not hearing too much of that in my walkabout. Somebody says it's a very pricey leisure wear and yoga outfit store. Yeah, it's probably a appropriate description. So yes, about half the population of Vancouver Island lives here in Victoria, and this Greater Victoria area. Vancouver Island, quite a large piece of real estate. People sometimes think it's quite a small little island. Some call it Vancouver Island, but it's not. It's some call it Victoria Island. No, it's Vancouver Island, and it's not a part of Vancouver in any way, shape, or form. It is about a 1.5 2 hour ferry ride across the strait, and quite a beautiful place to be. Now, one of Charlene's two favorite spots to shop is right across the way. It's the Rogers Chocolates that was established way back in 1885. She loves to get her some Rogers chocolates. Now, sometimes these streets are closed and they're just pedestrian only. This summer happens to have traffic, so we have to be a little bit careful when we're walking about. Anybody a chocolate fan? Let me know if you're a chocolate fan in the comments below. Take a little peek in the window here. Exactly. Susan says, somebody said chocolate? Yes. Well, this is definitely a stop for you when you have the chance. This is one of my friend Patrick's favorite spots. It's a beautiful wall mural map of what we just looked at on the wall there earlier. Talking about Fort Victoria. Some of the families that were significant in this area and the establishment of this. And just a little glimpse down one of the side streets here. Beautiful place to wander. My friend Patrick would point out the Irish and Scottish influences here, as well as the English influences. And by influences, I mean all the little shops and such. Candy stores. Now here on our left is Charlene's other. Am I en route to Chinatown, Barbara asks. Yes, we are. Now whether we make it or not, I'm not sure, but I'm definitely en route. I hadn't planned to go to Chinatown, but it's one of the oldest Chinatowns outside of San Francisco, I believe, in North America. Now this is Charlene's other favorite place. It's an ice cream place called Chocolate Favorite, and it's actually home is in Quebec, and there's only 2 shops outside of Quebec. One in Ontario, and one, I believe it's in Ottawa, and one here in Victoria. And if you love ice cream, this is one of the stops you need to make. Look at that ice cream cone. Like, that is just one example of the crazy ice cream that they serve here. It's absolutely fantastic. So if that's you, and you're into that, that's a second stop. And if you're looking for vegan treats, they offer those as well, okay? So, beautiful. I love just the character of these little buildings as we walk along, right? Historic buildings all the way along the street. Somebody says they're gaining weight just watching this. As you should. As you should. There we go. Beautiful. We're going to walk up to the entry to Bastion Station, which again is the home of the original Bastion building, which was part of the fort here in Victoria. Now, I mentioned that one of the reasons this place existed and was started was because of the Hudson Bay Company. And of course, Hudson Bay Company, incredibly significant in the history of Canada, the establishment of Canada, for good reasons, for bad reasons as well. But across the way is the Hudson's Bay and the Bay Center. Hudson Bay Center, home to about 80 shops. You can hear one of the buskers that often we find along the way as we wander down Government Street. Covers 2 full city blocks, this mall. 4 floors, and actually during the Christmas season has quite a beautiful Christmas tree display. Look at this cute little guy waiting for his Christmas tree display that comes every Christmas. And sometime I do want to bring you down and show you that, because it's another one of those very traditional Victorian things to do. Murchie's Coffee since 1894. Now, one of the things I noticed when I go to Quebec and Montreal, for example, Montreal, one of my favorite cities. One of the things I notice when I go to Montreal is, you know, so many of the buildings and areas are so much older than this here. I mean, we're dropping dates like, you know, 1894 and 1860 and these kind of things. That's, you know, that for this western part of Canada is very, very old. That's old school for us here. And so that's important to remember. So this is our Bastion Square. This is where we have that historical establishment of the city of Victoria, Fort Victoria here. In fact, there's kind of a cool plaque here that just says this tablet marks the site of the bastion, which stood at the northeast corner of Fort Victoria, erected by the Hudson Bay Company in 1843. So for Western Canadians, this goes back way, way back. Of course, the Irish Times pub right here on the corner, and the beautiful facade of this building here. let's walk down just a little bit and take a little peek. I love walking down the alleys. One of the things I almost put together and haven't yet, but I've got a bit of a brainstorm list on it, is a walking tour of all the alleyways like this here in Victoria, because there are so many of them. Beautiful little alleyway walks that we can go on. So many cool little spots and things to see. I mean, even these kind of pictures, Fort Victoria, there's actually a picture of the Bastion. So I've been saying the word Bastion a lot. Some of you have been to Nanaimo, so you know what I'm talking about on my tours, but others of you haven't. One of the only left standing wood bastions is in Victoria. But there's a Bastion Tower here, circa 1858. It's kind of depicted, you can see it there, which has the cannons on the side, which would have been one of the first lines of defense for the harbor area. As we continue down back towards the Inner Harbour where we started. Great place to grab a little snack, coffee, or just cool off when the sun is beating down, because they're often very shady, which is nice. Well, I hope you have enjoyed our tour today. So many more spots I could show you, but I try to keep these to about 45 minutes or so. Today that was very, very, very easy. Now, if you want to, here, let me just spin this around for a second. If you're interested and want to stick around for another 5 minutes, I want to indulge you for a second. One of my favorite vantage points to look out over the city is just around the corner. It does involve us going up about 8 flights of stairs. You can sit back and relax. I'll do all the hard work. But if you're interested, we'll zip down there and I will show you that spot. And maybe this is a great time. Oh, wow, look at this place with the ivy. This might be a great time to just remind you again, if you've just joined us recently, we're coming up to the conclusion. If you like what you've seen today and you enjoy these kind of tours and you have the means and want to leave a tip, I do have down below in the description of this video a link to my Buy Me a Coffee. Some of you may want to be monthly supporters. Some of you may just want to leave a one-time tip in $5 increments. Either is fine, but it does get you on the email list, and it does help support me and encourage me to keep doing these, because to be honest, this for me takes a few hours of planning, and if it's something that you guys like and can support me in it, then I'll keep doing it. But let me show you this ivy building for a second. There we go. Ooh-wee. And then we're going to walk up to take a look at the kind of an overview of the city. But I love this ivy covered building. Wow. Look at that, you guys. This is the only time of the year that you can see it like this. Often, just in the wintertime I'm down here, it's just a bunch of kind of dead, leafless roots, but right now, absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so we're going to, for those of you who want to stick around, we're going to run up these stairs really quick. 8 flights, get up to the top, and then show off what we're going to see. There used to be an interesting installation here, which had little sensors on the bars back here, and these colorful lights, and you'd touch them, and it would play notes like a piano. And so you could come in here and you could run your finger along the bars, and you would make music and sounds, which was a pretty cool thing. And so I liked when they did that. And then COVID came along, and of course it got disconnected because they didn't want people, touching where other people were touching. And as a result, it stopped working, and they don't seem to have turned it back on, although I think they should, because it was absolutely fantastic. Guys, we're almost there to this lookout. I've got 3 more stories to go. Whew, I'm working hard. Hope you guys aren't having too bad of a time, but we'll get up there, I'll go quicker. But it's definitely worth, it's definitely worth the wait. It's a beautiful lookout when we get there. I'll give you a sneak peek right now. We're not quite there yet, but you can see how good it's going to be. So it's worth sticking around for. Okay. Whoops. All right. 2 more stories. That was for me to take a little bit of a breather too. Okay. 1 more. We're almost there, you guys. We're almost there. All right. Here we go. Let me get up to the spot that I like. Running along. A little bit of a workout with you. Can you hear the seagulls? We're up on a parking garage, and it gives a beautiful vantage point of the Inner Harbour, which is why we're all here. So let me flip this around and show you what I'm looking at right now. So there's where we've been. You can see the beautiful Inner Harbour. If you've ever done the Fisherman's Wharf tour with me, Fisherman's Wharf is right along over there. Yeah, there's so many of them right now. It's so loud. It's great. You can see into the other side of the Inner Harbour across the way. So beautiful. Another building across from us here, this red one right in front of us. 1896, another one beside it from the 1900. Beautiful. And let me just show you one more spot of just looking down the other way. Hop up on this and away we'll go. There we are. Look at that. The skyline. This is why this is my favorite spot to come take photos, film video, and look out over the city below. Turn back one more time, catch some more of these buildings across the way, all the people walking down there, and off into the distance. And this seems like the perfect place to leave you guys today. Thank you so much for spending an hour of your time with me. It's always just an absolute joy and treat to be with you guys, and thank you so much. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. And again, I'll be emailing you, for those of you who are on my email list, what's coming up, and then shortly thereafter, I'll let people know on some of the other Facebook groups that I'm on. And somebody in the comments says they won't soon forget the monkey in the dress, which is true. I'm glad I'm not the monkey in the dress. Thanks so much, you guys. Appreciate it. And again, just down below, leave a like and a comment on this video if you enjoyed it, and then hit up that Buy Me a Coffee link if that's something that you're into. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you again.